I wish it was as easy as taking a hot chili pepper, rubbing it on my belly, and the fat just magically goes away, but that's not how the world works. We actually have to eat it to have an effect. Now, I'm not suggesting that eating a chili pepper is going to make your fat melt away, okay? Yes, that stuff is like flooding all over YouTube, but we have to look at the science and look at the reality. And yes, spicy food to some degree may have a positive impact on visceral fat, and we're going to investigate that, but I want to be real here. It's not like a magical thing that's going to make all your problems disappear. So let's break down the science and get down to why spicy foods have an effect on the potbelly and visceral fat. Hey, after this video, I want you to check out something called Haya. So if you have kids like I do, nutrition for kids is difficult, right? No matter how hard you try, you can't force your kid to eat something. But one of the things we do realize is that micronutrient deficiencies are going to be much more prevalent in kids than they are in adults because we are usually eating a wider spectrum of foods. So there is a really cool multivitamin called Haya, which is a chewable, kind of good tasting sweet multivitamin that's sweetened with monk fruit. So unlike a lot of these other vitamins that are on the shelves for kids that are loaded with sugar, that completely just blows my mind how that's even allowed. But anyway, the point is if you check out Haya down below and you use that link, you will save 50% off your first order with Haya. So if you have kids and you want to let them have like a multivitamin that's fun that they look forward to, like my son actually looks forward to it like it's a dessert because it tastes good and it's pediatrician approved. It's been formulated in a really cool way. Anyway, I recommend it, and that link is down below. And a big thank you to Haya for the continued support and sponsorship on this channel. So use that link and save 50% down below on Haya. Okay, so chili peppers have things in them, okay? We have like capsaicin, we have capsinoids. In this particular case, we're looking at capsinoids and we're looking at visceral fat. Now, a quick overview. Visceral fat is the fat that is underneath your typical fat. Like it's not your subcutaneous fat, it's not the fat that you would see, the unsightly stuff. It's the stuff that can protrude and trigger a potbelly, or even worse, like not see it at all, and that's what can be kind of scary about it. Now, visceral fat plays a pretty serious, daunting role in the inflammatory response within our body. Okay, higher levels of visceral fat are usually correlated with higher levels of circulating inflammation, which you can just go down this cascade and vicious circle of all kinds of different problems, but it's also unsightly, okay? People that have a high amount of visceral fat, yeah, they could have that potbelly, right? Now, visceral fat's not going to magically eliminate that, but this American Journal of Clinical Nutrition study is pretty interesting. They took a look at 40 men and 40 women, and they gave them 6 milligrams of capsinoids. Now, capsinoid is typically found like a typical chili pepper, and 6 milligrams is what you would see in maybe a small chili pepper or a large sweet pepper. Now, as I've addressed in another video, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going the sweet pepper route because A, you're gonna have a lot of fructose, but B, you get a lot more in the way of lectins, which can impede certain responses within the body, okay? So they can actually affect leptin levels, all that. We're not gonna go there today. Point is, when they gave these subjects the 6 milligrams of capsinoids for 12 weeks, they saw a pretty serious decrease in their central adiposity. So what was funny is between a control group and between the group that had the spicy capsinoids, there wasn't much change in overall body fat. Like there wasn't a huge change in total adiposity, but there was a change in visceral fat and was a change in central adiposity. Now, central adiposity is the big thing we have to worry about. That's like the apple shape that is really just characteristic and hallmark of, well, unfortunately, unhealth, right? So that's a really powerful thing in 12 weeks. Now, how exactly is this happening? What is the mechanism of action here? And can you start adding spicy things to your food and get a benefit here? The mechanism is really kind of speculated, but we have to take a look at some other research that we've seen. When you consume spicy food, you sometimes have this what's called activation of the TRPV receptor. And what that can do is affect the beta adrenergic response. Now, visceral fat is very receptive and responsive to stress, to cortisol, to adrenaline. Now, it may sound like cortisol and adrenaline are totally bad things that are only fight or flight responses, but the cold hard truth is that adrenaline plays a pretty big role in how we burn fat. It's like when you are exercising, you have an adrenaline response. You have catecholamines, right? That catecholamine response can allow hormone-sensitive lipase to be activated. That can allow the whole, lipolysis and beta oxidation process to kickstart. So yes, we have a fat-burning response, but when we have more glucocorticoid, cortisol, kind of stress receptors within our visceral fat, that would imply that when we have that beta adrenergic activation or receptor activation, the fat that we're going to burn could be the visceral fat first. Now, again, this is a hypothesis based upon other research that I know. Okay, researchers have their own reasons as to why. Okay, there's kind of old theory out there that if you have spicy food, you're going to increase your core body temperature and you're going to burn more fat. Some cases that's true, but it's such a negligible amount. We're talking like a % increase in your overall body temperature. That is not enough to really get a lot of fat burning effect. Okay, it's just so negligible, and I feel like that is really just taking it a little bit too far. The fat burning effect that we get is more than likely kind of systemic and how we're getting that beta adrenergic receptor activation. So that I find much more fascinating. Now, there's something that you could do. It's called a chai chili or a chili chai tea. Now, that's something if you don't like spicy food, if you take just a chili pepper, you break it open and you put it in either a chai tea or a black tea, you actually won't taste a lot of the spice, but you get the active components like the capsaicinoids that you need in this case. So if you don't like spicy food, that's a way to go. Typically, I start my day with cayenne pepper to begin with. I usually use apple cider vinegar, a little bit of water, some cayenne pepper, a little bit of salt, and all kinds of different things that I mix into the equation, but they're for different reasons. And the cayenne, I feel, does give me that little adrenaline boost. I feel like I need less coffee when I have that, but that's just me personally. And it's just a testament to how it's working along that pathway. So anyhow, if you add spicy food to your mix, you add some spices to your mix, there is some evidence that it can play a role in your visceral fat. So it's worth it, right? As always, keep it locked in here on my channel, and I'll see you tomorrow.